Finally, the new Sony a7 Mark IV is here, but it comes with a couple snags. So you're probably wondering if you want to buy it or wait for something else. Alright, so the Sony a7 IV is officially here. It's live right now. You can go pre-order it. Now, while this thing is a beast camera, I do want to get straight into like the nit grit of this and talk about the negatives. It's gonna be a great camera, but there are a couple things that I'm just kind of like, really? You have to do that? I also want to give a quick shout out on Gerald Undone. Link to his review is in the description. He supplied so much information I think we need to give a lot of credit for. Honestly, what would we do without Gerald? Anyways, diving straight into it. Sony, what were you doing? 4K 60p is confirmed, but it's crop mode. Okay, 4K 60p in crop mode, I'm gonna be honest, isn't that big of a deal. To a lot of people, I know it's just gonna be that like argument on this thing versus that thing. Oh, why didn't I get this? This product is better than this because it has this tool. The upside with this is in 4K 60p based on Gerald's review, there's been like no overheating issues past like a few hour window. But nonetheless, on such a big sensor, I was just curious as to why they did do a crop. I don't know, I'm not an engineer, I can't answer these things. But the big thing that I have a gripe about is the rolling shutter is back. Yes, the notorious rolling shutter debate. Although the feature is not flattering, and I feel like there could have probably been a fix to this in a 2021 camera. From what I've seen, there's not even any improvement from the a7 Mark III to the a7 Mark IV for rolling shutter. I don't know what all goes into this, but I feel like they could have fixed that. But again, I'm gonna be completely honest, rolling shutter only really affected me in the moments of like film work for me, like wedding film work or commercial work when I was working for a fitness company. If I'm using the camera, I'm a hobbyist, I'm a content creator, the rolling shutter is really not that big of a deal for me. Or if I'm like more of a tripod, like right now, a rolling shutter camera does not affect what I am doing. So I still really stand by the idea that the camera is gonna be very good for like content creators. I think it's gonna be a very content-based camera, or your average consumer. We'll dive more into that in a second. But honestly, those are the only issues I've found with the Sony a7 Mark IV. Oh boy, are you gonna piss some people off today, BigE? Those are the only issues? There's no way. Well, yeah, actually, those are the only issues that I found with the Sony a7 Mark IV. In fact, it seems the Sony a7 Mark IV is a 100% complete upgrade from the Sony a7 Mark III. So if you're coming here to ask the question, should you just buy the Sony a7 Mark III or should you get the Sony a7 Mark IV? If you're talking budget, I'm sure the a7 Mark III is gonna go on sale. But if you're actually wondering, is the a7 Mark IV a substantially better overall camera from the Mark III? The answer is yes. It is all around a much better camera than the a7 Mark III. It is a huge upgrade in every aspect. In fact, the Sony a7 Mark IV outperformed the $3,500 a7 Mark III in color, dynamic range, detail, and autofocus. Again, Gerald Undone, I couldn't do these tech spec reviews. Go check out his video. So that also helps with the question, should you get the Sony a7 Mark IV or continue to save up for the Sony a7S Mark III? From my average consumer content creator side, like YouTube videos, I would say the a7 Mark IV would hands down do everything you need to do if you're a hobbyist and everything in the video world for like this type of stuff, for being able to create and have fun and have a high quality camera and have features that come with that. I would say if you're doing more paid gigs, more professional work, more film work, wedding films, commercial stuff, real estate stuff, it depends on your situation. It depends on how aggressive you are with shooting. It also depends big time on your budget. So it's a very subjective question to ask. Overall, personally me, I pre-ordered the Sony a7 IV to have that run and gun ability, to have a third reliable video camera that my wife can use in just clutch situations for like wedding films when I need extra shots. But on the flip side, the Sony a7 Mark IV is now going to be my primary photo camera, me and my wife's primary photo camera. So in terms of a7 Mark IV versus the Sony a7S Mark III, I think it's very subjective, but honestly, I can't even argue why people should save up for the a7 Mark III in a lot of situations, again, based on the hobbyist idea. A lot of people forget I'm a content creator, and I talk to a lot of content creators. A lot of people that watch these videos are not like six-figure a year salaried, high-end photography, videographer, like they would already know all the answers. So I'm sharing mostly my opinion as a content creator to you guys and gals. By the way, real quick, if you guys are enjoying today's video, if you're enjoying today's conversation, be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. If you guys have anything you'd like to see from the Sony a7 Mark IV when I get it in my hands, I'll be sure to check those comments out and look into making some videos. Also, make sure you guys are going to my website, BigE.co, snagging some apparel, some digital goods, like for example, the color correction that I'm using today. Okay, I jotted down some notes today on why this thing is a beast. First and foremost, $2,500. I think $1,000 difference from the Sony a7S Mark III for what this camera offers, like what we're gonna get into, is a perfect price point. And if you guys are offended about that price, there's plenty of other cameras now that have dropped in price. It's all, you get what you pay for. People, like, everybody wants everything for free nowadays. You got 33 megapixel with a Sony A1 autofocus system. I've heard that this autofocus system is insane, which makes the Sony a7 Mark IV autofocus better than the a7S Mark III. You have your 10 creative look presets alongside S-Log3 at 10-bit 422 with 15 stops of dynamic range. The flip screen is confirmed to be in this. Also, it does have the full-size HDMI port on the side. ISO range 50 to 204,000. I also believe in Gerald test that the noise reduction was better in the Sony a7 Mark IV than it was in the Sony a7 III or a7 S3, one of the two. It does have S Cinetone. This comes with the new Bion's XR processor, which is probably what gives a lot of the new features that the Sony a7 IV is gonna have over some of the newer, more expensive cameras. For example, the a7 Mark IV, aside from not having overheating, has a new programmable dial. Sensor shutter closes when the lens is off, similar to the Sony a7 A1, I believe has that. It has a new focus breathing feature, which is like really good for some of these Sony lenses that I got. Like the focus breathing is really bad on some Sony lenses. I really hope to see an update to the Sony a7S Mark III and the Sony FX3. A big thing, again, touching base to the idea of content creators, is it has a hassle-free USB webcam feature, meaning you plug your camera in via USB and your computer will automatically ask if you want to use it as, like, it detects it automatically as a webcam. And then in a world where live streaming is clearly becoming a dominating content consumption force, that is huge. That is a game changer. You have a new additional selection dial under the typical Sony selection dial to go back and forth from video and photo. 5-axis stabilization with active mode, which is amazing in these Sony cameras. 4K video is actually 7K downscaled to 4K, and even 4K 60p video is like 4.5K resolution downscaled to 4K 60p. So even with that 4K crop, you're looking at a sharper, higher quality image than you are with something like the Sony a7S Mark III. Overall, I'm kind of torn because, like, I know people's arguments. I know that people typically in 2021, they look at tech and they try to pick away at their negatives. They try to look for room in arguments to make things less desirable in their opinion. We oftentimes put us into categories that are like above others because of like how we utilize things. Like the amount of angry photographers or music videographers that I get in my comments when I talk about camera, tech gear, and just like my thoughts and how I feel about this thing. The amount of them that get so angry because it's like they want to portray their success and like what they're using and say like, I'm professional this, so I got to give you my opinion on why you're stupid. It's so weird because like my full-time job is working with these devices. I need these cameras. Everything I do is around creating content and doing gigs, and I use these cameras every single day. And whenever I look at a new product, I really try to think, is this tool good or bad? And even though no tool is perfect, like for example, the Sony a7S Mark III doesn't have 24 megapixels, it doesn't have 30 megapixels. I understand the benefits of what I'm getting out of all the other positive options. I don't always look at the negative because is there really a perfect camera out there? Like, let's just say they threw 24 or 33 megapixels into the Sony a7S Mark III. Would we be looking at a bigger body? Would we be looking at overheating? Or we'd probably be looking at a larger price? Or somebody's like, well, I want it to be affordable. Okay, you dickhead. I want to be able to afford it. I can't afford these things on a $2,500 budget. Well, these cameras aren't necessarily marketed for the idea that like everybody should be, like, these are tools for people that need these tools in different situations. So when you ask me, is there anything to argue about with the Sony a7 Mark IV? Yeah, there, of course. Like, there's always pros and cons to any camera that ever exists. But if you ask me just straight up, is the Sony a7 Mark IV a good camera for the price in comparison to other cameras in the market? I say yes. If you don't trust it and you want to do your research and you want to go with something by a different brand or save some money for a more expensive Sony camera, by all means, do you. But sometimes I like to just have this transparency in this conversation because I feel like we really take away from the engineering and development that goes into all these cameras from all these brands. We are honestly spoiled with the technology that we have already and the technology that's going to be coming out from the A7 Mark IV. At the end of the day, you make your adjustments. If everything's just an argument for you, you're never going to be happy. But ultimately, I hope you guys are excited about all these new cameras and tech coming out. Even an A7 Mark IV that you're not interested in is just going to push the market in every other way. It's going to make Canon have to do a better job, Panasonic to improve on their stuff. Any progression is good progression. And then you just have to evaluate your decisions on what's best for you. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I hope you are as excited about this camera as I am. Make sure you guys leave a like on today's video, comment down below anything you'd like to see from the Sony A7 IV, or just your thoughts on the camera as well. I'm all ears. Like, you can bash the camera, and I'm interested to know what your real constructive thoughts are as to why. Be sure to subscribe, turn on those notifications. That's all I got for you guys today. I'm out. Peace. Deuces.